You're eating breakfast, doing that mental math that never quite adds up. How much do I actually need to retire? When can I stop working? Am I even on track? Or am I completely screwed? Here's what nobody tells you about retirement savings. There's a specific number where everything changes. Not $1 million. Not some vague enough to be comfortable target. $250,000. That's the milestone where the math shifts, where your psychology transforms, and where your entire relationship with money fundamentally rewrites itself. Now, I'll be honest, getting to that first $250,000 is brutally, exponentially harder than getting to the next $250,000. But once you cross that threshold, life feels completely different. Make sure to hit that subscribe button because we're about to break down exactly why this number matters and how you actually get there. Let's talk about why saving your first $250,000 feels like pushing a boulder up a mountain while saving your second $250,000 feels like watching it roll downhill on its own. The secret? Compound interest. But not the boring textbook version. The real version that actually changes your life. Here's the thing. Most financial advice gets wrong. They tell you compound interest is important, then they show you some chart with lines going up and your eyes glaze over. So let me explain it differently. Imagine you're building a snowball at the top of a mountain. At first, you're doing all the work. You're packing snow with your bare hands, rolling this tiny ball around, and it's exhausting. That's you saving your first $10,000, $20,000, $50,000. Every dollar in that account came from your labor, your sacrifice, your side hustle, your decision to drive a boring car. But here's where it gets interesting. Once that snowball gets big enough, something magical happens. As it rolls down the mountain, it starts picking up snow on its own. It gets bigger without you doing anything. That's compound interest. That's your money making money. At $250,000 invested at 7% annual returns, which is roughly what the stock market has historically averaged, your money generates $17,500 every single year without you lifting a finger. Read that again, $17,500 annually. That's like having a part-time job that you never have to show up for. No boss, no meetings, no performance reviews. Now think about how long it would take you to save $17,500 through pure labor. If you're saving $1,000 a month, that's a year and a half of grinding. But at $250,000, your money does that automatically every 12 months. This is the moment when your money starts working harder than you do. This is when the boulder stops being something you push and becomes something that pulls you forward. But here's the brutal truth that makes the first $250,000 so psychologically devastating. For years, maybe even a decade, you won't feel this momentum. You'll save $1,000 a month, and your account will grow slowly. You'll save $2,000 a month, and it'll still feel like you're crawling. The compound interest is working, but it's invisible. It's like planting a tree and staring at the dirt for months, wondering if anything's actually happening underground. The math is working against you at first, because your contributions are the only thing moving the needle. If you have $10,000 invested and it grows 7%, that's $700. Exciting, right? Not really. $700 feels like nothing when you're trying to save $250,000. But when you have $250,000 and it grows 7%, that's $17,500. Now we're talking. Now the math is working for you instead of against you. This is why the first $250,000 is the hardest money you'll ever save. And this is exactly why most people never get there. But here's where most people get stuck before they even start. It's not actually the math that stops them. It's the identity shift required to get there. Saving $250,000 doesn't just change your bank account. It rewrites who you are. And that transformation happens in 3 specific stages that most people never talk about. Identity shift. 1. From consumer to investor. There's a moment that happens on the path to $250,000 where your brain completely rewires how it processes spending decisions. You stop asking, "Can I afford this?" and start asking, "Does this move me closer to $250,000?" This sounds like a small change. It's not. It's everything. When you're thinking like a consumer, you see a nice restaurant and think, "I can afford $50 for dinner." When you're thinking like an investor, you see that same restaurant and think, $50 is $50 that won't compound for the next 30 years. This shift touches everything: your car, your apartment, your subscriptions, that streaming service you forgot you're paying for. Every single financial decision gets filtered through this new lens. And look, I'm not saying you become some joyless robot who never has fun. I'm saying you develop what I call automotive Stockholm syndrome, where you convince yourself you love that 15-year-old Honda Civic because it's reliable, when really you're just obsessed with not delaying your retirement by 3 years because you needed heated seats. Identity shift. 2. From paycheck dependent to optionality builder. The second shift is even more powerful. It's the moment you realize you're not just saving money. You're buying freedom. When you have zero savings, you're completely dependent on your next paycheck. Your boss knows it. You know it. Every decision you make is constrained by this reality. You can't quit a toxic job. You can't negotiate aggressively for a raise. You can't take a risk on a new opportunity because the gap between paychecks could destroy you. But when you have walking away money, everything changes. You don't have to walk away. That's not the point. The point is, you could. And that possibility changes how you show up to every workplace conversation. There's actual research on this. Studies show that people with emergency savings have measurably lower cortisol levels, lower anxiety, better sleep. It's not just psychological, it's physiological. Your body literally relaxes when it knows you have a financial cushion. At $250,000, you're not just building an emergency fund. You're building optionality. You're creating the freedom to make decisions based on what you want, not just what you can afford to risk. Identity shift 3. From present focused to future secured. The third shift is the most profound. It's when you stop living month to month and start thinking in decades. When you're living paycheck to paycheck, your brain can't plan beyond next month's rent. It's not because you're bad at planning. It's because survival mode doesn't allow for long-term thinking. You're too busy putting out fires. But $250,000 creates breathing room in your brain. Suddenly you can think about career changes, starting a business, moving to a different city, taking a year off to retrain for a new industry. This is what financial foundation actually means. It's not about being rich. It's about having the stability to take bigger life risks because, you won't end up homeless if things don't work out immediately. So how do you actually get there? Let's get brutally honest about what it actually takes to reach $250,000. You need to save aggressively, not comfortably. Comfortable savings gets you to retirement at 75. Aggressive savings gets you there while you can still enjoy it. Here's the math that most financial advisors won't show you because it's too depressing. If you save $1,000 per month and invest it at 7% annual returns, you'll hit $250,000 in roughly 12 years. 12 years. That's a long time to maintain discipline, but if you can push that to $2,000 monthly, you cut the timeline to roughly 7 years. 7 years versus 12 years. That's 5 extra years of compound interest working in your favor. 5 years closer to the moment when your money starts generating serious passive income. And here's what blows my mind. Every extra dollar you save doesn't just add to the total. It accelerates the entire timeline exponentially because of compound interest. An extra $100 per month doesn't just mean $1,200 more dollars per year. It means $1,200 that compounds for decades. So how do you actually get to $2,000 monthly in savings? You pull 3 specific levers, and you pull them hard. Lever 1. Increase income aggressively. Side hustles aren't optional at this stage. They're strategic weapons. I don't care if you're delivering food, freelancing, consulting, or selling stuff in your garage. Every extra dollar of income is a dollar that can compound for 30 years. But here's the real income lever nobody talks about: career advancement and salary negotiation. A $10,000 raise, if you're saving aggressively, can shave years off your timeline to $250,000. Years. Not months. Years. And here's the rule that changed everything for me. The 72-hour rule. Anytime you get a raise, you have 72 hours to redirect that extra income straight to savings before lifestyle creep destroys it. After 72 hours, your brain recalibrates to the new income level, and suddenly you need that money for other things. Automate the increase to your retirement account within 3 days, or it's gone. Lever 2. Cut ruthlessly but strategically. Housing is the big one. Everyone tells you to keep housing at 30% of your income. That's fine advice if you want to retire at a normal age. But if you want to hit $250,000 faster, you need to challenge that number. Can you live with roommates longer? Can you stay in a smaller place for 3 more years? Every $100 you save on rent is another 100 that compounds. Transportation is the other killer. The $20,000 car trap delays retirement by literal years. I'm not saying drive a death trap. I'm saying that reliable used car that costs $8,000 instead of $25,000 just bought you freedom. And yes, I know it doesn't have heated seats. You know what's warm? Early retirement. Then there's the subscription audit. Streaming services, gym, memberships, meal kits, app subscriptions. Death by 1,000 small charges. Audit everything monthly. If you're not using it weekly, it's gone. Lever 3. Invest immediately and automatically. Here's why save then invest fails, but invest automatically succeeds. Willpower is a finite resource. If you have to manually move money from checking to investments every month, you'll find reasons not to do it. The car needs new tires. Your friend's getting married. You deserve a vacation. But if the money never hits your checking account, you can't spend it. Pay yourself first isn't just advice. It's the only strategy that actually works long term. Set up automatic transfers to your retirement accounts the day after your paycheck hits. Make it impossible to fail. Index funds and retirement accounts are boring. They're also the only path that actually works for normal people. You're not going to pick the next Tesla. Neither am I. Just buy the whole market and let time do the work. But here's what changes once you cross that threshold. Once you cross $250,000, the mathematical acceleration becomes visible and genuinely addictive. Remember that $17,500 your money generates annually at 7%? That number isn't theoretical anymore. It's real. It shows up in your account statements. You can watch it happen. That's equivalent to a part-time job you never have to work. No commute. No boss asking you to come in on Saturday. No performance reviews. Your money just sits there, multiplying itself while you sleep. And here's the part that makes the first $250,000 worth all that sacrifice. The next $250,000 takes roughly half the time. Maybe 6 years instead of 12. Maybe 3 years instead of 7. The compound momentum you built becomes unstoppable. But the real transformation isn't mathematical, it's psychological. Your risk tolerance increases because you have a foundation. When you have zero savings, every decision feels dangerous. Taking a new job in a different city feels terrifying. Starting a business feels impossible. Even planning a vacation triggers anxiety about whether you can actually afford it. But when you have $250,000, suddenly these same decisions feel manageable. Not easy, not risk-free, but manageable. You can take that new job because you know you have a cushion if it doesn't work out. You can start that side business because failure won't destroy you financially. Career decisions shift from survival to fulfillment. You stop asking, what pays the most, and start asking, what do I actually want to do? That's not some luxury mindset. That's what financial foundation enables. You gain the ability to weather financial storms without catastrophic damage. Your car breaks down? Annoying, but not devastating. Medical emergency? Stressful, but not bankruptcy-inducing. The transmission on your boring Honda Civic finally gives up? You fix it without eating ramen for the rest of the month. Your relationship with money itself transforms. Money stops being this constant source of stress and becomes a tool for optionality. You start thinking in decades instead of pay periods. The question shifts from, can I ever retire, to when do I want to retire? But let's be real about what doesn't change. You're not rich. You're strategically positioned. You still need to work. You still need to save. You still can't buy everything you want. $250,000 isn't I'm done money. It's I've fundamentally shifted my trajectory money. You're not going to quit your job and live on a beach. You're going to keep building. But now you're building from a position of strength instead of desperation. You're building with momentum instead of grinding uphill. That's the difference. That's why life feels totally different after 250,000, and you'll get there faster if you avoid the 31 things I share in this next video.